start. Hi, welcome to another edition of Legal Quilts. Last time I promised that we'd do something special this time, and I'm going to deliver. What we're going to do is more fun with Hexies because I've gotten to the point with the butterflies where it's not portable anymore, so I had to come up with something that was portable so I could take it on trips and that sort of thing. So what I came up with was these Hexies. Okay, and as you can see, they look like sunflowers, and there's a reason for that. This is going to be a quilt made with Hexies to support Ukraine. 1 year ago, yesterday, Ukraine was invaded by Russia. They are still at war, they are still fighting for freedom and democracy, and Legal Quilt still supports them. But I'm going to need your help, so this is going to be a group project. So what I want to do is make a quilt of all of this, you see, where I just sew them together. And then when I finish it, I'm going to put more blue around it, square it off, and it'll be a quilt. But what I want to do, and why this is a group project, is I need your help. I can only sew so many of these things. So what I want you to do is everybody else can help me sew these sunflower blocks, and then I'll sew them all together into the quilt. You send them to me, we sew them all into a quilt. Then the quilt at the end is auctioned off with the money going towards Ukraine, aid groups in Ukraine. So here's where I need your help. I need you to help me sew the blocks. I need ideas of good, reputable groups that we want to donate to. I need ideas for how we can run this auction. And everybody's name will be included on this. It might be the world's biggest quilt label, or we'll have to come up with something else. And if you don't want your name included, just tell me that. Or you only want initials or something. But I want everybody to get credit who helps with this thing. So let's start with the blocks first before I get too far ahead of myself. The blocks are just very, very simple. We're using the basic colors, as you can see, a very warm brown, sunshiny yellow, and we're just sewing them on. This isn't paper piecing. I've seen this done not without paper piecing, okay? And you just lay your piece on there, see how that goes, and then when you get to the part where you got to turn and do the Y seam, you just, let me do this. I usually stick my needle in my mouth, and I can't right now. I'm doing it. You just, can you see what I'm doing here? It's laying flat. You just flip it over. Just twist it. Not really twist it, but pivot it. So you go around, and then you see you got this little piece here where it all joins. And by the way, when you want your thread, needle and thread, especially if you're hand sewing this, facing you. So you want it on the upside. And that's just because it's easier, because then you put your piece through there. You go through there a couple of times. And you go back down. And you go to, oops, make sure you get both the yellow and the brown there. And then you do the same thing over on this seam here where you're doing the pivot. You want both the yellow and the brown of the next one. I like to go through a couple of times because it makes it safe. I just want to make sure it's going to hold. Whoops. And you just go through here and here, and then bring it back again. And this time you want to end on the back side, because again, it makes it just easier to continue sewing your seam. And you just continue along, boom, and you just sew your seam. Now, what size Hexies are we using? We are using 1 1/4 Hexies. How do you know the size of a Hexie? Because, you know, it's a hexagon. It's by the edge. All of these edges are 1 1/4 inch. So if you're cutting yours, make sure they're 1 1/4 inch, okay? And then when you finish the yellow row, and I know I've got a needle sticking out here, you just add in the blue row and do the same thing. Just sew around. Now there's 12 blue, and they just go around like this. Bum, 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 bum. and you just lay them around and you just keep sewing. If you're doing this on your machine, it's slightly different, that turn part, but really you put your needle down, pivot, and continue on. It's really not, it's really easy. I don't sew something this small on the machine. I'm just not that good. But if you can sew a 1 1/4 inch hexie on the sewing machine, more power to you. So let's talk fabrics. Like I said, these are going to be 1 1/4 inch hexies. All right. And we want a nice warm brown, a sunshiny yellow, and kind of a royal blue. Now I'm doing these in solids, but they don't have to be solids. But again, we've talked about this before, choosing fabrics. We don't want something that's a big print, because it won't show up on a 1 1/4 inch hexie. You're not going to see your print. And what you might wind up with is, you're trying to do a blue like on this, you might wind up with a whole bunch of black. So that doesn't really work. Like if you were to use this, that's lovely, but you see how the white predominates? So you want something that is more, same problem here, it's got a lot of the gold that'll show up, maybe a lot of the black, and not quite the right shade of blue. I'm not gonna be like, oh, it must be only this shade of blue, but like royal blue family, think along those lines. Sunshiny yellow, and a warm brown. Brown is brown, but kind of a warm brown, so it really looks like a sunflower, which is, as we know, the national flower of Ukraine. Now you can go with a very light print, like my favorite, the dragonflies, because when you print this out, it's not going to matter. You're not going to really see the print. Or you want to go with a tone on tone. This is not quite tone on tone, but the print blends in so well you can't tell. So you want either a very small print or a print that blends in so well that's almost a tone on tone. Because again, we want the colors of this to come through, and we don't want that getting lost in a big wild print, okay? So again, we just want warm brown, sunshiny yellow, royal blue, okay? And people, you can make those, then email me at legalquilts.com for an address where to send them. I don't want to put my address out for everybody to hear. I've got to work on that part. If you don't sew, or you don't want to work on this project but you want to support it, you can make a donation through PayPal at legalquilts.com, and all that money will be used to buy either more material for me to make them or somebody else to make them, or the batting or the backing that has to go into this when we finish the quilt. Any money left over from donations is going to be put towards, with the auction money, and again donated to Ukraine. So I'm not going to make any money on this. I'm not going to take any money. All of these requirements I'm going to put in the notes of the episode so that you can go back and look at it. Okay, so that's the group project. If everybody contributes, and I just want to see how this goes. I don't know how big a quilt we'll get. It depends on how many I get. And I'll give everybody a fair warning that's like, look, I'm getting near the end of how big a quilt I want. If you're going to send them in soon, so nobody gets stuck or anything with a whole bunch of these blocks that they don't really want. All right. And quite frankly, if I get enough, I'll do 2 quilts. We'll auction off 2 quilts. I don't care. Okay. But I'm not going to make sure anybody gets stuck or anything like that. And not English paper piece, because once you do that and then I sew them in, I'm going to lose more. You can do, and this is the way I always learned to do these types of things with Hexies, was not English paper piecing. So you get rid of the raw edge when you sew them together, as you can see. And again, we're going to fill in the blanks here and then square it off. I'll square those off. And I wasn't the only one. I went to a quilt shop. Hubby and I decided we wanted to go out for seafood. So we picked a town, and the town we happened to pick happened to have a quilt shop. I swear it went that order. We picked the town first, then I checked for a quilt shop. But lucky me, it had a quilt shop. And I went in, and they were selling these blocks. Lady had donated a whole bunch of these blocks, and they were selling them to benefit the animal shelter. So I bought some. And you notice there's only 1 row here. I've always done it 3. We had the center, then the outer one, and then another outer one. I don't know. I've always learned it that way. Maybe I'm wrong. But that's the way I learned it, and I kind of like it because you get more of the flowery thing, but what do I know? I could be wrong. But the lady was like, I always wondered what to do with Hexies. So I whipped out my camera, my phone, and showed her all the pictures of the things I do with Hexies. Yes, she got to see the butterflies, because everybody sees the butterflies at this point, okay? And then she's like, but how do you show her? And just like how I showed y'all, except I didn't have my needle and thread with me, I just showed her here how you pivot and sew. So I got to teach the nice lady who's working at the quilt shop. Well, my husband was sitting out in the car going, where is she and what is she doing? Is she ever going to come out here? So this is another way to do blocks, but we're going to do this block, which is a grandmother's flower garden. And we're going to do it with 3 because we kind of want the blue to be the sky between the sunflowers, which is the whole Ukrainian national thing. All right, you're going to see progress on how the quilt's going. I'll do shorts on that. I will provide documentation of any expense if anybody donates money. Trust me, because I don't want to be responsible for that, and I don't want anybody accusing me of anything. I'm really big on that. But you can see, even out on trips, I love talking about Hexies. Back to this project. I think it's going to be a great idea. I think we can all do a great thing for Ukraine if you all pitch in and help me. I'm going to keep making blocks. I hope you'll join me. And again, everything's going to be in the notes again. So that's it for this time. Like, subscribe, comment. Every little bit helps. You can go to my Ko-fi page if you want to support the videos and make a donation there. If you want to donate to this, just do it through the PayPal link I'm going to put in the notes. I don't want the monies mix because I don't want to be accused of anything. And of course, everything's up on the website. Please look, share it. Again, I hope there's something you want to buy. If not, private message me. I do custom orders within reason, and they do take a time because I have a day job and I'm doing this, and but if you're reasonable, we can work something out. But that is it for this. Next time we will hopefully do the borders on the top. But for now, let's just concentrate on supporting Ukraine. And so until next time, have a great time sewing. Remember, there are no quilt police, and it's supposed